Hi everyone, welcome back. We're going to be reading the chapter called Mr. Tushman, and it begins on page 11 of our story. Hope that you enjoy. Mr. Tushman. Mr. Tushman came into the office. He was tall, kind of thin, with messy gray hair. "Hey guys," he said, smiling. "I'm Mr. Tushman. You must be Charlotte." He shook Charlotte's hand. "And you are—" He looked at me. "Julian," I said. "Julian," he repeated, smiling. He shook my hand. "And you're Jack Will?" he said to Jack, and shook his hand too. He sat down in the chair next to Nurse Molly's desk. "First of all, I just want to thank you guys so much for coming here today. I know it's a hot day and you probably have other stuff you want to do. How's the summer been treating you, okay?" We all kind of nodded, looking at each other. "How's the summer been for you?" I asked him. "Oh, so nice of you to ask, Julian," he answered. "It's been a great summer, thank you. Though I am seriously looking forward to the fall. I hate this hot weather." He pulled his shirt. "I'm so ready for the winter." All three of us were bobbing our heads up and down like doofballs at this point. I don't know why grown-ups ever bother chit-chatting with kids. It just makes us feel weird. I mean, I'm personally pretty okay talking to adults, maybe because I travel a lot and I've talked to a lot of adults before. But most kids really don't like talking to grown-ups. That's just the way it is. Like, if I see the parent of some friend of mine and we're not actually in school, I try to avoid eye contact so that I don't have to talk to them. It's too weird. And it's also really weird when you bump into a teacher outside of school. Like one time I saw my third grade teacher at a restaurant with her boyfriend, and I was like, ew, I don't want to see my teacher hanging out with her boyfriend, you know? Anyway, so there were me, Charlotte, and Jack nodding away like total bobbleheads as Mr. Tushman went on and on about the summer. But finally, he got to the point. "So guys," he said, kind of slapping his hands against his thighs, "it's really nice of you to give up your afternoon to do this. In a few minutes, I'm going to introduce you to the boy who's coming to my office, and I just wanted to give you a heads up about him beforehand. I mean, I told your moms a little about him, but they didn't talk to you, did they?" Charlotte and Jack both nodded, but I shook my head. "My mom just said he had a bunch of surgeries," I said. "Well, yes," answered Mr. Tushman, "but did she explain about his face?" I have to say, this is the point when I started thinking, okay, what the heck am I doing here? I mean, I don't know, I said, scratching my head. I tried to think back to what Mom had told me. I hadn't really paid attention. I think most of the time she was going on and on about what an honor it was that I'd been chosen. She really didn't emphasize that there was something wrong with the kid. She said that you said that the kid had lots of scars and stuff, like he'd been in a fire. Well, I didn't quite say that, said Mr. Tushman, raising his eyebrows. What I told your mom is that this boy has a severe craniofacial difference. Oh, right, I interrupted, because now I remembered. She did use that word. She said it was like a cleft lip or something. Mr. Tushman scrunched up his face. "Well," he said, lifting his shoulders and tilting his head left and right, "it's a little more than that." He got up and patted my shoulder. "I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear to your mom. In any case, I don't mean to make this awkward for you. In fact, it's exactly because I don't want it to be awkward that I'm talking to you right now. I just wanted to give you a heads up that this boy definitely looks very different from other children, and that's not a secret. He knows he looks different. He was born that way. He gets that. He's a great kid. Very smart, very nice. He's never gone to a regular school before because he was homeschooled, you know, because of all of his surgeries. So that's why I just want you guys to show him around a bit. Get to know him. Be his welcome buddies. You can totally ask him questions if you want. Talk to him normally. He's really just a normal kid with a face that, well, is not so normal. He looked at us and took a deep breath. Oh boy, I think I just made you all more nervous, haven't I? We shook our heads. He rubbed his forehead. He said, one of the things you learn when you get old like me is that sometimes a new situation will come along and you'll have no idea what to do. There's no rule book that tells you how to act in every given situation in life, So what I always say is that it's always better to err on the side of kindness. That's the secret. If you don't know what to do, just be kind. You can't go wrong. Which is why I asked you three to help me out here, because I heard from your lower school teachers that you're all really nice kids. We didn't know what to say to this, so we all kind of smiled like goobers. Just treat him like you would treat any kid that you've met, he said. That's all I'm trying to say. Okay, guys? We nodded at the same time now, bobbling heads. You guys rock, he said. So, relax, wait here a bit, and Mrs. Garcia will come and get you in a few minutes. He opened the door. And guys, really, thanks again for doing this. It's good karma to do good. It's a mitzvah, With that, he smiled, winked at us, and left the room. All three of us exhaled at the same time. We looked at each other, our eyes kind of wide. Okay, Jack said. I don't know what the heck karma is, and I don't know what the heck mitzvah is. This made us all laugh a little bit, though it was kind of the nervous type of laugh. This chapter is called First Look. I'm not going to go into detail about the rest of what happened that day. I'm just going to point out the fact, for the first time in his life, Jack had not exaggerated. In fact, he had done the opposite. Is there a word that means the opposite of exaggerated? Unexaggerated? I don't know. But Jack had totally not exaggerated about this kid's face. The first look I got of August, well, it made me want to cover my eyes and run away screaming. Bam! I know that sounds mean, and I'm sorry about that, but it's the truth. And anyone who says that that's not their first reaction when seeing Auggie Pullman isn't being honest. Seriously. I totally would have walked out the door after I saw him, but I knew I would get in trouble if I did. So I just kept looking at Mr. Tushman, and I tried to listen to what he was saying, but all I heard was yak, 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 because my ears were burning. In my head, I was like, dude, 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 dude. I think I said that word 1,000 times to myself. I don't know why. At some point, he introduced us to Auggie. I think I actually shook his hand. Triple I wanted to zoom out of there so fast and wash my hand. But before I knew what was happening, we headed out the door, down the hallway, and up the stairs. Dude, 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 dude. I caught Jack's eye as we were going up the stairs to homeroom. I opened my eyes really wide at him and mouthed the words, "No way." Jack mouthed back, "I told you." This chapter is called Scared. When I was about 5, I remember watching an episode of SpongeBob one night, and a commercial came on TV that had totally freaked me out. It was a few days before Halloween. A lot of commercials came on during that time of year that were kind of scary, but this one was for a new teen thriller that I'd never heard about before. Suddenly, while I was watching the commercial, a close-up of a zombie's face popped out on the screen. Well, it totally and completely terrified me. I mean, terrified me. Like the kind of terrified where you actually run out of the room screaming with your arms in the air. Terrified. After that, I was so scared of seeing that zombie face again. I stopped watching any TV until Halloween was over and the movie was no longer playing in theaters. Seriously, I stopped watching TV completely. That's how scared I was. Not too long after that, I was on a play date with some kid whose name I don't even remember. And this kid was really into Harry Potter. So we started watching one of the Harry Potter movies. I'd never seen any of them before. Well, when I saw Voldemort's face for the first time, the same thing happened that had happened when the Halloween commercial came on. I started screaming hysterically, wailing like a total baby. It was so bad, the kid's mother couldn't calm me down, and she had to call my mother to come pick me up. My mom got really annoyed at the kid's mom for letting me watch the movie, so they ended up getting into an argument. And, long story short, I never had another play date there again. But anyway, between the Halloween zombie commercial and Voldemort's noseless face, I was kind of a mess. Then, unfortunately, my dad took me to the movies at around that same time. Again, I was only about 5, maybe 6 by now. It shouldn't have been an issue. The movie we went to see was rated G. Totally fine, not scary at all. But one of the trailers that came out on was for Sugar Scary Fairy, a movie about demon fairies. I know, fairies are so lame. And when I look back, I can't believe I was so scared of this stuff. But I freaked out at this trailer. My dad had to take me out of the theater because, yet again, I couldn't stop crying. It was so embarrassing. I mean, being scared of fairies? What's next? Flying ponies? Cabbage Patch dolls? Snowflakes? It was crazy. But there I was, shaking and screaming as I left the movie theater, hiding my face in my dad's coat. I'm sure there were 3-year-olds in the audience who were looking at me like I was the biggest loser. The thing about being scared, though, you can't control it. When you're scared, you're scared. And when you're scared, everything seems scarier than it ordinarily would be, even things that aren't. Everything that scares you kind of mushes together to become this big, terrifying feeling. It's like you're covered in this blanket of fear, and this blanket is made out of broken glass and dog poop and oozy pus and bloody zombie zits. I started having awful nightmares. Every night I'd wake up screaming. It got to a point where I was afraid to go to sleep because I didn't want to have another nightmare. So when I started sleeping in my parents' bed, I wish I could say that it was for a couple of nights, but it went like this for 6 weeks. I wouldn't let them turn off the lights. I had a panic attack every time I started drifting off to sleep. I mean, my palms would literally start to sweat, and my heart would start to race, and I'd start to cry and scream before going to bed. My parents took me to see a feelings doctor, which I only later realized was a child psychologist. Dr. Patel helped me a little bit. She said what I was experiencing were night terrors, and it did help me to talk about them with her. But I think what really got me over the nightmares were the Discovery Channel nature videos my mom brought home for me one day. Woohoo for those nature videos! Every night we'd pop one of them into the DVD player, and I'd fall asleep to the sound of some guy with an English accent talking about meerkats or koalas or jellyfish. Eventually, I did get over the nightmares, though. Everything went back to normal, but every once in a while, I'd have what Mom would call a minor setback. Like, for instance, although I love Star Wars now, the first time I saw Star Wars Episode 2, which was at a birthday sleepover when I was 8, I had to text my mom to come and get me at 2 a.m. because I couldn't fall asleep. Every time I closed my eyes, Darth Sidious's face would pop into my head. It took about 3 weeks of nature videos to get over the setback, and I stopped going to sleepovers for about a year after that too. Then when I was 9, I saw Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, for the first time, and the same thing happened to me again, though this time it only took me about a week to get over Gollum. By the time I turned 10, though, all those nightmares had pretty much gone away. Even the fear of having a nightmare was gone by then, too. Like if I was at Henry's house and he would say, "Hey, let's watch a scary movie," my first reaction wasn't to think, no, I might have a nightmare, which is what it used to be. My first reaction would be like, yeah, cool, where's the popcorn? I finally started being able to see all kinds of movies again. I even started getting into the zombie apocalypse stuff, and none of it even bothered me. That nightmare stuff was all behind me. Or at least I thought it was. But then, the night after I met Augie Pullman, I started having nightmares again. I couldn't believe it. Not just passing bad dreams, but the full-blown, heart-pounding, wake-up screaming kind of nightmares like I used to have when I was a little kid. Only I wasn't a little kid anymore. I was in 5th grade, 11 years old. This wasn't supposed to be happening to me anymore. But there I was again, watching nature videos to help me fall asleep.